All right, we're live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff happening in the crypto space. One thing that I'm sure that's on everybody's mind who's been, watching this space over the past week or so is like, what is going on with NFTs or non-fungible tokens, these crypto collectibles? They've been going absolutely through the roof. And we're talking about why in this video today and, kind of answer some of your questions because some people are really confused about this. They're like, why are these, digital JPEGs selling for over $1 million? Okay. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at a lot of other updates that have happened in the space. We've got some major stuff coming down the pike for especially Ethereum this week. We've got a major network upgrade, the EIP 1559 upgrade, the London hard fork. We're going to talk about that. We're going to check on the crypto markets and a lot more. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Culture Hive, Automatic Beats, Francis, Susanna, Cruisy Life, Lee Robert. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump into the main topic of discussion today, which is NFTs, non-fungible tokens, because I'm sure this has caught a lot of people by surprise. NFTs have been on an absolute tear, really for the past month, but it seemed to have reached a fever pitch, at least the euphoria that I've been seeing online about them, especially with the prices. And honestly, I'm a little bit concerned that we're in a local top for NFTs, that the prices have been running at an unsustainable rate, and they'll likely correct soon. Kind of like the crypto markets, to tell you the truth. We've already seen Bitcoin correct a little bit, Ether as well. But let's go ahead and ask ourselves, try to answer the age-old question, like, why do these NFTs have value in the first place? Okay, because this is something that confuses a lot of people. Especially when they look at this and they say, hey, I don't understand why somebody's going to pay that kind of money. Well, let's start off with the CryptoPunk NFT, because this is one of the most valuable non-fungible token collections on top of the entire Ethereum blockchain, okay? So let's just start with why NFTs have value in the first place, any NFT, and then we'll drill down into some of these specific ones as to how they value them, okay? So I'll be full disclosure here. I am not like an expert in, picking the winning NFT. That's not what I'm trying to tell you in this video. I'm trying to answer some simple questions about why would anybody pay for them in the first place. But for NFTs, basically, you have to start off with why does anybody buy anything? So it's based upon supply and demand, especially with cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's like anything else. There's a finite supply and there's demand for it. Okay, so the price is a function of supply and demand. So when you have NFTs, let's just start with the technology itself. It's a non-fungible token, all right? There's different, it lives on the blockchain. It's powered by smart contracts, and the blockchain, as it gives it the digital scarcity that fixes the supply, so that only a predictable amount can be created or are created already. Okay, so supply is fixed, basically, or has a set of rules around it at least. Then enters the demand side of things. So you have supply, and then you have demand. Demand, why would anybody demand a CryptoPunk in the first place, or any NFT? Well, think about, before, this is where people start getting confused, because you have to start asking yourself, why do people demand anything that doesn't have a ton of intrinsic value or doesn't give them, immediate needs like food, shelter, water, all that type of stuff? So before you try to ask it, like, why would anybody purchase a digital collectible or a work of art, right? Why would anybody, like a trading card, for example? Why would anybody spend money on any of that stuff that gives them, it's because it gives them some sort of meaning or purpose or identity or status that is not directly related to their immediate needs, okay? So you think about this, like, people call CryptoPunks the digital Rolex. So why would anybody buy, a fancy watch or something like that? Well, they could be a collector. They might like certain attributes about it. They might like the status that it gives them, all that type of stuff. And the same is true for a lot of these digital collectibles. Now, they're not all created equally. Not all digital collectibles are worth, $1 million like CryptoPunks. Or not all CryptoPunks are worth $1 million. It's just that this is one of the famous collectibles where some of the punks are selling for well over $1 million, into the millions of dollars. Okay, if you go down the list here, you're gonna have certain NFTs that are selling for much less than that for sure. But so why would a CryptoPunk sell for over $1 million, and why would some of these lesser NFTs not be selling for anywhere close to that? Well, at the end of the day, different, NFTs will have a large degree of subjective value to them based on the eye of the beholder, so to speak. It's just like any other art. Like you look at a piece of art, does it feel aesthetically pleasing to you? That's what gives it some value, okay? But there will be other qualities that actually increase the likelihood that one NFT will be more valuable than the other. And these sort of character traits tend to compound upon one another. So, for example, with CryptoPunks, it's one of the original non-fungible token collections on top of the Ethereum blockchain. It actually, I believe, predates the ERC 721 standard, so it's pretty old. So it's a very OG project, and you really can't recreate that with blockchain. That's one of the things that actually makes it cool is you can prove that it's old, you can prove the scarcity. It has a very distinct vintage compared to something else. They just something that's brand new cannot compete in the same way in terms of that characteristic. Okay. The other thing is just the ethos of the CryptoPunk. That turns into the aesthetic appeal of it, right? It's a punk. Some of the original. So the original ethos of crypto and blockchain anyway was sort of the cypherpunk mentality. So you've got that going for the CryptoPunks. Of course, it's got this pixel art, which is pretty cool. Some people are like, oh, it looks like a third grader drew it. It's not really true. Like pixel art is simple by design, but it's still like a monkey can't just do it, right? It's sort of like the criticism of pop music or something like that. It's like, oh, it just sounds so simple. It's like, well, if it's so easy, then why don't you do it? You know what I mean? So, and the cool thing about the NFT world is that's an arena where that line of thinking is actually a true challenge because it's not that hard to create your own NFT. And so if you think a third grader can do it, then why don't you just do it? So that's another reason that these have value. I could go on and on. There's lots of different reasons, but those are some of the ones off the top of my head. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that CryptoPunks are gonna are they overinflated? Is this gonna end badly? Do you think they have value? Do you own a punk? Let me know down in the comment section below. So one thing that is I do think is a very distinct possibility is that the NFTs could be in a local bubble. Okay, I'm not saying that the entire market's going to crash or anything like that, but I've seen a lot of euphoria around them, especially over the past week or so. So you can look at the 7-day metrics, up 800%, 24-hour metrics down 21%. You start to see this trend start to shift. Some of these autoglyphs up 1,000% in the past 7 days. Now, actually, I'm not sure if this is the volume or if it's the actual price or that might just be the volume, but either way you can still see that certain metrics are actually exploding through the roof and then now starting to correct. So even if that's not the price, you can still start to see the activity around these things kind of come up really fast and are starting to come down a little bit. You can also use a website like nonfungible.com to analyze some of this stuff. You can see here, you can look at your collections, like you can track 7-day highest sales. You can look at actual market history. You can filter by the collections. You can see the number of sales reaching this uptick like I was talking about, the sales in USD, active wallets, primary sales, secondary sales, all that type of stuff. So if you have any other tools that you like to use to track the NFT trends, then post them down in the chat here. Somebody says, if I owned a punk, I'm sorry, but I would not be watching this video right now. That's funny. So let's go ahead and check on the, check on the crypto markets as well. So go ahead and check on the Bitcoin price. Let's check on the index here. So Bitcoin, we're short on our 4th day of red. All right. So honestly, this was to be expected. I've been kind of talking about this. Basically, we had this correction. We broke out of this trend line. We saw a reversal of our moving averages. We kind of, were testing this $40,000 resistance line, but it came after like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10 days of green in a row. And that's not really a sustainable pace for Bitcoin, and I would expect a correction sometime soon, and so we're getting it now. So the real question is, will we consolidate around this $40,000 level? If we don't, will we go lower? Will we make a higher low here? That'll be sort of the thing that I'll be watching out for. So I do think, I've been leaning more bullish with the price action we've seen lately, but we really need to get out of the woods from this level before I get too excited. But like I've been saying, pretty much. Check on the Ether price as well. Now, one thing that's really interesting that could be honest, there's a few factors that could be affecting the ETH price. I talked about it yesterday on this channel. How the EIP 1559 network upgrade is coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about that here more in a minute. And how that could be having some effect on the Ether price. In particular, it could be a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. But honestly, a lot of the NFT mania that's been going on over the past week could similarly have some buy pressure on ETH. Hard to know how much that would actually affect it, but a lot of these NFTs, you have to purchase them with ETH, okay? So if you have basically all these people scrambling to buy NFTs, combined with the market recovery that's been happening with the Bitcoin price and others, combined with the EIP 1559 sort of hype train that's coming this week, all of that could have pretty significant impact on the price of Ether. And then if the NFT, basically if you think about it this way, people who are selling their NFTs for millions of dollars or whatever they are, and now they're cashing out of that Ether and they're dumping it for USD, and we are at maybe some sort of local top for NFTs, and that could it could be a factor in the price of Ether correcting. So yeah, just some things to watch out for there. Okay, I'm gonna, don't spam the chat, please. I'm gonna have to mute here. I'm gonna try. Let's see here. All right, so let's, let me actually pull this on my screen here. So tomorrow we have a big day coming up for the Ethereum. We got one of the biggest network upgrades that has happened really in the history of the entire network. The EIP 1559 network upgrade, the London hard fork happening. So this is a big improvement. We talked about it a lot yesterday, but I'm gonna recap it on this channel. We're gonna be watching this, because it's supposed to come out tomorrow. We'll talk about it again tomorrow. We'll probably talk about it all this week and kind of start to see what the impact is. So EIP 1559 is a UX improvement for ETH. It has a lot to do with the gas fees and how basically you're charged whenever you do transactions on the Ethereum network. But the biggest benefit that people are excited about in terms of price is the burning of ETH whenever new transactions are created. So whenever you do a transaction, you send Ether around, you swap on a DEX, anything like that, your gas fee gets split up into two parts: the base fee and the miner tip. Base fee gets burnt. The miner tip goes to miners. And, if we have enough ETH burnt, then that can have an impact on the price of Ether, assuming the demand for Ether stays the same or increases. And so we can see that here on watchtheburn.com. So this is monitoring the EIP 1559 ETH burn on a test network. Or actually, this is the main net. Sorry, you can change the network. You can look at the Robson test net and actually see the amount of ETH burned. You can watch the metrics. But we'll be updating this and actually changing over to the mainnet whenever this goes live to observe it. So you can actually click into each block here and then see the gas used. All right. And you can actually see the block reward was 2 ETH. And here was the base fee. And this is how much GWEI was burned. So this is not Ether. So 29,733 GWEI. I'll show you how to calculate this. Let me just put up my screen here. So GWEI, if you don't know what it is, GWEI basically is just a subdivision of Ether. So all currencies have subdivisions. So a US dollar has 100 cents that make up the dollar. You can't really subdivide it any more than that. And so basically there's 2 zeros after the decimal place. But if you look at Ether, for example, let me just pull up my screen here. Ether has WEI, which is its smallest unit of a count. So that's like saying Ether's penny, but it's way more than 100 pennies. It's like 18. Sorry, not 18. 18 zeros after the decimal place. So sometimes it's hard to tell how much WEI things are. So then you have greater subdivisions. So GWEI, I think it stands for GigaWEI. anyways, the whole point is you can see how they convert here. So if you look at the whole point I'm trying to make is this. If you take this GUI burned, you can put in this calculator, and you can see that that's this much ether. So like 0.0000297, this much, okay? So that's pretty small, but if you think about it, it's every block. So, you know, we're mining blocks like crazy every single day, or every few seconds, really. And so that adds up to a lot of blocks per day. And then you can see the total amount of ETH that gets burned. It simulates this on the test network. Like if this were live and that test network was actually running, then the total amount of ETH burned would have been, 9 million. Okay, so it's a lot of ether. Now, the dynamics, this will be slightly different on the test network from the mainnet, okay? Because the gas fees will differ based on demand. The whole point is that demand is different. And so demand for block space on the test network will be different from demand for the block space on the mainnet. So you can't just copy and paste the metrics over from one to the other. And so anyways, we'll have to see how much activity actually happens on top of the Ethereum mainnet before we can actually determine the amount of ETH that gets burned. But you can use this website. We'll actually go back to it. We'll start tracking it once it goes live, and we'll switch this over to the mainnet to see, how much it gets burned. So the other thing you have to understand is when we're burning the ETH, it's not necessarily existing ETH that's getting burnt net, because whenever you're creating new transactions on the blockchain right now, there's a block subsidy. So that's new ETH getting created, and the ETH that you're burning is simply offsetting the new ETH that's getting created. Now, if there's enough activity, it can completely offset and be greater than the amount of ETH created, especially when we move to proof of stake, all right, and the block issuance drops like crazy. So that's the thing to really watch out for. But in the meantime, the most likely outcome is that it will simply offset the amount of ETH created, but which can still have a positive impact on the Ether price because it simply reduces the amount of ETH that's entering into the supply. All right, let's see here. Yeah, go ahead and let me know about the NFT project. Somebody just mentioned it in the chat here. Okay, so yeah, we're definitely going to keep an eye on that, but we can also check on the actual metrics for the Ethereum network itself. So we can check on the activity on Etherscan right now. So you can see the daily transactions for the Ethereum network. Still trending upward, all right? It definitely peaked out around the middle of May, I think, when everything else did. Pretty much every single metric is correlated with the number of active addresses, the number of transactions, all that type of stuff. I mean, you can see that basically, like, here's when the last major cryptocurrency bull run peaked out, all right? And you can see the number of transactions per day was correlated with that. Same sort of thing with this last major peak, number of transactions correlated with that. And then we can see the transaction chart increase. So this is pretty significant because, this is consonant with sort of the Metcalfe's law evaluation models that we talk about a lot on this channel. Of course, full credit to Raoul Paul and Real Vision and Global Macro Investor is sort of the place that I learned about those. And we talk about them on this channel. But basically, the whole idea is that the price of cryptocurrency has a correlation with the number of active addresses on the network. And so this is transactions, not necessarily active addresses, but it's still consistent, right? And if you actually look at this and you overlay it with like the Ether price, let's just see here. Let's just pull it up here. Hold on. They look very similar. You pull up the Ether price chart for that same period of time. Well, for some reason, mine's not loading right now. Anyways, we'll get back to that in a second. Once it loads, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let me have any questions in the chat here. Somebody says it's a simple play on words. You've been punked by a bunch of rich punks. Somebody says NFTs are probably a bubble. Yep, I think so. Somebody says I really want to become a blockchain developer. Yeah, awesome. So the best way to do that is, just go to my YouTube homepage, find those free courses there. Just pick one, get started. We got a new one coming out pretty soon. We did some updates on this channel last week, talking about some changes. Of course, we started at a new time. This was our original time that we started, but we've moved back to this. The other thing is we've got some more coding content coming down the pike. So you can expect a new video out next week. We talked about potentially doing live streams. We're going to start off with pre-recorded videos first to see how that goes. And then, we got a big, long, multi-hour course coming out for YouTube pretty soon. So keep an eye on that. Subscribe to the channel. If you're brand new, it'll, have the latest versions of Solidity, all that type of stuff. All right, so here, what I was saying a second ago is basically if you look at the price chart for Ether over this period of time, and you can overlay it with the active transactions, they're very correlated. All right. So now the transaction count did not tank quite as much as the ETH price, right? So you could say that, ETH maybe was undervalued, particularly during this time period here. But the overall trend looks about the same, right? You have this peak up around January, followed by a pretty big correction, all right? And then like that, right? And you can even see an uptick, here in June 2019. You see the same sort of thing, June 2019, back to, August 2020. Right, August 2020, and then you see ETH really break out, and you kind of think of ETH as becoming closer to its fair market value when you see it kind of catch up with the trends in the actual transactions by those valuation metrics. Now, I know that cryptocurrencies are very hard for people to value. It's a notorious problem, especially for people who are on the outside trying to come in. They say, well, I think that, I get the supply and demand thing. I get that some of these cryptocurrencies, particularly like Ether, have real value proposition and what you can do with them. But we still don't understand how to arrive at a fair market value price. And I get that's challenging, and we do have different models that can kind of help you. The best place to start thinking about this is, what is it valuable relative to? So how is it valued relative to other cryptocurrencies based on, other supply and demand factors? And that's a better starting place, I think, for most people to kind of, step down that rabbit hole before you're truly convinced of one way of valuing them over the other. Start with relative valuations before you kind of get to that final valuation metric. Somebody says, imagine Call of Duty on blockchain. Have sick NFTs as well. Any other popular game? Yeah, totally. See if I get a question in the chat here. So here's a good question. I'm actually going to give this person a little bit of advice here. So see it coming through. So I said, so I did the blockchain bootcamp and flat iron coding bootcamp. Been applying for blockchain dev jobs for the past 3 weeks. I've been on several interviews, have great knowledge, but no work experience. So here's where the real challenge is for getting your first job. And so I totally get this. This is like one of the hardest parts, is just especially if you have no experience getting that first job. So I'll give you some advice on this. You've done a lot of the right stuff. You've gotten the training. Okay, you've done a lot of different programs here. So it's this catch-22 if you need experience to get your first job. So how do you get experience if you've never had a job before? You get the experience outside the workplace. Now, you've got the education, which is great. Now, my next question is, how much of a portfolio have you built? Because that's going to be that's really how you get experience outside the workplace. Is you basically build a real world project on your own. You run into all the walls, and then you prove to your employer that you have that experience, because that's going to show that you have the hustle, that you have the drive, you have the self initiative they're going to need in an employee. It also just shows your competence with the technical skills. If you've built something and it works for real out in the wild, there's a high likelihood, assuming you're honest, like, and they can tell that like you actually built it. There's a high likelihood that you're going to be able to do the work that they want you to do. So let me know down in the chat. I was seeing, let's see who was saying that. It was, I think it was Anthony was saying that. Somebody says, I have ERC20 token and I'm working on a DeFi bank. I definitely need to get a project on the mainnet. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the mainnet. I mean, it could be on a test network, just so that they can see, like, what you're capable of. I mean, the best scenario would be building an app that actually has users. But you don't have to do that, right? That's still a pretty high bar for somebody who's just trying to get a job somewhere. But that's how you get experience without getting a job. And that's one of those common questions I get. It's like, well, how do I get the first job? You get the experience outside the workplace. And that's how you do it. So do you have any thoughts on blockchain-based games? Like, what can be done in the space outside of just NFT economies? So basically, in terms of blockchain gaming, I think we're starting to see play-to-earn models start to work, okay? So there will be some kinks that get ironed out with this for sure. We're going to see what sticks. I mean, the entire space is very experimental. Like, we just try some things and we see what works. Not everything works. The same is going to be true for blockchain gaming. We're going to try a lot of stuff. Some stuff's going to work. Some stuff's not going to work. Same thing for metaverse. Same thing for social tokens. Same thing for all this stuff. So I think play to earn is definitely finding its place in the blockchain gaming world. That's sort of the next big thing that I'm going to watch out for. So this is, I am new, where do I start? So definitely, if you're trying to start, the best thing to do is you just start building a step-by-step tutorial project. You go to my YouTube homepage, find those free courses there. They're like Udemy courses. They're a few hours long. You don't have to, they'll teach you the programming languages as you go. You don't have to go learn all the programming languages, then build a project. Just start building a project. Could blockchain help solve the hacking in first-person shooter games? That's an interesting question. Yeah, I have to think about that one. Interesting thought. So Anthony also was talking about getting his first job. Was willing to take a price cut to get his foot in the door. Yeah, totally. So that's another thing to think about is, it depends on what your needs are. Everybody has to determine what their own financial needs are based on your age. Like, are you single? Are you married? Do you have kids? All this type of stuff. How old are you? And so basically, especially if you're young and you don't have a ton of you don't have a really strong, you don't have a lot of financial pressure, starting for a reduced rate can be a really great way to get your foot in the door, because at the end of the day, you're getting experience. That's the value that you're getting, and that experience is very valuable. And taking a reduced pay just to get started is a good way it can be a good way if you're having trouble getting your first job without doing that. Okay. I wouldn't necessarily start there for a lot of people unless you just want to end your search instantly. I usually just start trying to get hired at the going rate for your skill level. But if you find that challenging, then that is one strategy. You can just work for a reduced rate because you're getting experience, and that's valuable to you. You know, to ask for a raise later or change jobs. All right, everybody, that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so more people learn about blockchain. You know, if you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You find those free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, you know, actually be a blockchain master step-by-step from start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp.